We're just going to finish the Sicha quickly a bit, pick up pace. The Sicha of Pinchas, Shabbos Mevorchim Menachem Av. Here the Rebbe goes into a very interesting topic. The Rebbe says like this, as follows. We spoke previously, Shebet Kuva Achroina, meaning the seems like this was in the years last 1949 or so. Nothing folgt Marchami Admir Hayrav Vehiver Kamin Yonim and Gael and Hogabisman Shalachrizet. The Rebbe says that the Friedrich Rebbe spoke at the end about certain things that are going to happen in the future. So prophesized a bit of what's going to happen in the future. The sichos the Yud Gimel Tamas the Esh Staked. So the Rebbe says in the talk of Yud year before, Yud Gimel Tamas the year before, meaning 1949. Amar Kvagdish Marachami Adam, my father-in-law said, the previous Rebbe, Jeder chassid darf sagen, alle Tage Kapitel Tehillim, beyichud, as des chus von der Rebbeim so bei sei nimshach werden, and soll bei sei niklat werden. The Rebbe Friedrich Rebbe spoke in the last birthday of his life, 1949, that everyone should say the Kapitel of the Rebbe. So the merit of saying the Kapitel, the Rebbe's Kapitel, so the Rebbe says, Zo by Zay Nimshach Vern, it should be able to bring down. Un es Zo by Zay Niklat Vern. It should be able, first you should be able to bring down the flow of blessing, and to hope to Niklat, and when you can bring it down, but then you can't grasp it. Niklat means to grasp it, to contain it, to absorb it. The Gili or in Apnimis, in an eternal way. Everyone has to say the Kapitel Tehillim, specifically, that they should be able to bring down the merit of the Rebbe's v'yuklat, and they should absorb it, or gili, or the revelation of the light, b'pnimis internally. The Rebbe says seemingly, the idea that a Rebbe gives flow, that's from the times of the Baal Shem Tov. Nevertheless, there was never this message that one of the ways to specifically connect the Rebbe is by saying the Rebbe's Kapitel. To be able to bring down the merit of the Rebbe and Lilkoit, and to the Klita, the absorbing Hagili or the light, Bifnimis in an internal way. Ad Yud Beis Tammuz Tav Shin Tes. It wasn't mentioned that from the Rebbe that one should say the Rebbe's Kapitel until Tav Shin Tes. Means from the time of Baal Shem Tov to the last birthday and the last celebration of the liberation of the Friedrich Rebbe in 1949. Reish Leimer, the Rebbe says one could say, Shekadvarnu Mezeh Hoyse, Shekol Chassid Yamshich Loimer Es HaKapitel Shara Rebbe Hamatim Limis B'Shneisov. Maybe the idea is that the Rebbe is teaching us that we should continue saying the Rebbe's Kapitel, which is the custom that we've done since Gimel Tammuz. Yeshem chassidim sheyoimru Kapitel shel Rebbe Mizber Ayin. People were saying the Rebbe's Kapitel from 1949, Yud Beis Tammuz, when he turned 69. So it was Kapitel Ayin, which is 70. We always say a Kapitel ahead. Avlach Yud Shvat, when the Friedrich Rebbe passed away, they said, they didn't know what to do. Should we continue saying the Rebbe's Kapitel or not? The Rebbe passed away. Now after Yud Beis Tammuz. Yom Hiladas Shel Rebbe, the Rebbe's birthday. Now comes another question. What do we say? We say 70. We continue saying 70, which is Mizmer Ayin. But now that the Friedrich Rebbe turned another year, we say he turned 70, so we say 71. Meaning to say we're acknowledging that there's a concept of a birthday even after in the afterlife. Is such a thing as growing after you pass away. The Rebbe says, therefore, the Rebbe said that for all those who have all these types of questions, the Rebbe was concerned about these questions, and he indicated, you have to say it every day. The Kapitel of the Rebbe. So you can bring down the sichos, the merit of the Rebbe, and absorb it. When did the Rebbe say this? The last birthday of his life. It wasn't publicized. And the talk was kind of, only private people had notes of that talk. No one knew that the Frierdiker Rebbe indicated people should be saying, or instructed, not say indicated, instructed people to say the Rebbe's kapitel. Now it's been publicized. The Rebbe says, Divrei kvekdush marchami admor Divrei kvekdush marchami admor shakavona behem haisa lahav v'lahoiris b'negel zman shalachrizah. The Achris taught us the Frierdiker Rebbe was helping us how we're going to deal after the time of the passing. She wouldn't say clearly. Why wouldn't he say clearly that maybe I'm going to pass away and you should continue? Because you don't talk like that. Why? Because there's a certain what's called nemanus. It says about Moshe that Moshe was neman. What's neman? Trustworthy. There's a certain concept of trustworthiness with the secrets of God. So Moshe was trustworthy with the secrets of God. Mavor b'sfar. So it's brought down. What does it mean that you're trustworthy? Moshe is trustworthy. What is he going to steal from God? Trustworthy. What is he going to do? He's going to take something from heaven. Shana Monis. What is the trustworthiness? Misbatis expresses itself. Not everything you see do you talk. Moshe saw certain things in heaven. He didn't say them unless he was instructed, unless he understood there's something he has to share. There's a certain emunis, trustworthiness within Rabbeinu themselves, within tzaddikim, that they know a lot of things. They don't say it. The Frierdiker Rebbe doesn't say everything clearly, but he hints it. Nit altzvos men zet is men megala. Not everything we see do we reveal. Yeshna Sipur. There's a story. This about the Magid who was rich. Kimituma, the Rebbe says, it's a famous story. After later, ECC preserves Sifri Chabad, the Rebbe says, although I didn't see the story in Chabad publications, how you do it's known. My father-in-law's instructions. You can go in down when you have a story that the message is good, but you're not 100% certain if it's of its authenticity. If you could learn a lesson from it, you could tell the story. Once one of the students came into the Magid was rich. The story, as I heard, was Rebbe Aaron Karoliner, which was one of the elder students of the Magid was rich. He pared mimenu koidim nisiyasi lebeisai. He was going to go back home, so he's going to the Magid to say shalom. He's going to say goodbye. He's going to say goodbye to his teacher. The Magid said to the Chevra Kadisha, means the students of the Magid, shiakvu minisiyasi. They shouldn't let him travel. So they tried to prevent him from traveling. It didn't help. He kept on saying, no, why are you leaving them? They told him, the Magid told him that you shouldn't go. They instructed us to hold you back. Es stammt from the Magid Alein. The Magid is the one who's instructed us to hold you back. The chassid didn't believe that. Again, this is the Rebbe Aaron of Kaliner. The Rebbe quotes him. The Alter Rebbe quotes him and he puts him into the machzir by Hamelech. He didn't understand. He went to the Magid before, and the Magid said goodbye to him, and he said goodbye to the Magid, and everything was. So now, why would the Magid tell him to stay? Tell them to stay. So what did he do? You can believe. The Magid himself said goodbye. He didn't want to go ask the Magid himself straight up. Did you tell them to prevent me from going? He felt that was disrespectful. Or that's how I understand why he wouldn't want to ask. Maybe there's another reason. So therefore, what he decided to do is so he thought he's going to go back in and say goodbye a second time. The Magid said goodbye to him. And when he left, hat abgesindelt wie chassid ken. The Baron Karoliner told his colleagues off. Like, what did you make me crazy for? He told me the Magid held us back, held me back. I just went in the second time, the Magid said goodbye. The Magid said goodbye twice. Meantime, the Magid again called in the other students and said, don't let him travel. Again, he does not. Third time he went and said goodbye. And again, he said no, and then the Magid said to hold him back. It's kept on happening over and over and over again. Every time he tried to leave, the Chevra Kadisha would not let him leave. Then he'd go back into the Magid and say goodbye. The Magid would say goodbye. Until he stopped listening to them. The Darka, and he went home. But when he came home, he passed away. Nichnas achkach la Magid, so the students went to the Magid v'sholid. He said to him, basically they understood that the Magid was telling the students not to let him travel, because had he not traveled, he wouldn't pass away. If he'd stayed with the Magid, he would stay alive longer. He was going home, that's where it was decreed for him to die. Kivan Shiyada, so if the Magid knew that he had to stay, so why wouldn't he just say clearly, stay? That he should have told him, don't travel. But mine says the answer is there's a nemonis. There's a trustworthiness. The Maggid sees, he knows, he's not allowed to say clearly. So he's trying other ways to stop it, but he can't tell him, I know, I see from heaven, you can't travel. That's not how it works with tzaddikim. They call Dover Mutter Lagaz, not everything is allowed to be revealed. Once they asked, there was a publication from the Frierdiker Rebbe called Kriya Kedusha, which was put out in the 40s in the United States. So the Rebbe says, once about the publication of Kriya Kedusha, he says, Kosev HaRebbe Inyan Yasidis. The Rebbe would actually write in there futuristic things. Lama Kosev HaRebbe V'lei. So someone asked, why is he hinting it? The person was smart and was able to detect that the Frierdiker Rebbe was saying something. Why can't he just say it clearly? And then he stopped saying these things. So he says, the idea is, Ilu hayu ritzoyin shel Rebbe lisparsim, mizol im upstempeln. If the Frierdiker Rebbe wanted that he should be stamped, mean, be known, Betur Yudei Asidus, oh, he could tell the future. He always says, then that would, then of course he would say the future. So like this, people could say, oh, the Frierdiker Rebbe says the future. That's not the idea of the Rebbe. David Pan, he said many times, again, the years 1940, the Rebbe spoke deep, Iskashrus ideas. That's not the definition of a Rebbe. A Rebbe is not about a person that you can say, oh, he's so holy. Why? Because he knows the future. That's not a qualification or at all in the criteria of what a Rebbe is. It's not why you come close to the Rebbe, because the Rebbe wants to know something of the future. The point of the Rebbe is that he's the Rebbe. There's not that the Rebbe is, because the Rebbe has this quality and that quality and something else, he knows the future, and therefore I'm going to take him as my Rebbe. You're connected to him because he's your Rebbe. If he has those qualities, like the Rebbe says, if he needs them, he has them. If he doesn't need them, what's the point of them? It's not why you connect them. He's the one who connects you to the Eibishter. He wouldn't just say future, so he should be known as a future teller. There's a concept of nemonis, of trustworthiness. In order to install feelings of repentance and return, he said certain futuristic things to get people in line, but not just to overwhelm people with the idea that he's a Navi. The Rebbe says, in the later years, the Rebbe was revealing many things. The Rebbe said things that no one else said. The Sichas Chag Pesach, when the Frierdiker Rebbe spoke on Pesach, 1949, the Tafshin Tes. Amar Kvoitish Mevorchim Menachem Av, the Frierdiker Rebbe said, Shehichlit legalis davar shadatu legili. He was going to say something he never revealed. He said that by revealing this, Agam das is negei azich, it's going to affect me. Dafmin das tan mit nefesh, but there's a purpose for me revealing it, and the effect or the reason is more important than the consequences. The Rebbe says, from this we see, when it comes to helping the community, it means he revealed something, even if it would question his trustability. It means he had information that it was revealed to him as a person of nemonis, as a Rebbe who's a person of nemonis. But he figured he has to reveal a little bit because it's very important, not because people should know that he knows things, but that the effect of it is going to be very important. This clearly by the Rebbe, we saw the Rebbe pushed and pushed. Our Rebbe pushed the boundaries like no one ever before that. Here the Rebbe says an interesting finish to this talk. The Kayetz HaAchrein, in the year again 1949, in the summer, Tumo. Tumo means a balagan. What? There's a thought that there would be a war. I'm not familiar with the idea, but maybe some sort of war, maybe with Russia, maybe in Asia, some sort of war, obviously in the United States. A lot of people, they were talking about war, 1949, people were scared to do certain business dealings because it could be affected if there was a war. Hichel Yehudi Asher, there was a rich person who wanted to do business, but didn't know what to do. Shenhoy Noig Litin Harbe Kesef, the Kupa Shotstocky was a big charity, big donor, evidently to the Frierdiker Rebbe's charities. Livar Chavestai, Tishal Rebbe, wanted to know what the Rebbe thought about this. If there's going to be a war now, so should he invest or not? Should he be concerned? Yehudi Zu Hoise Breitkeit. This Yehudi, this Jew, had a broad shoulders. Breitkeit means broadness. He mentioned his Chanukah, Birchei America. He was an American fellow, and Americans have a certain broadness. Nevertheless, with all his broadness, he didn't want to ask the Rebbe directly. So he called our Rebbe, Rebbe Nachman Bushnerson, the Rebbe, who was then in charge of the organizations and probably had a relationship with this person. He asked the Rebbe to go into his father, the previous Rebbe, and see what the Frierdiker Rebbe thought about the war. If there's going to be a war, he's not going to do the business. And because the Rebbe says, the Rebbe's telling the story, because I also wanted to know the Rebbe's opinion if there's going to be a war now. But he's not, he's only a messenger, he's only a tziner, I'm only a pipe. I'm asking on behalf of someone else. Therefore, he felt to ask on his own, he thought that maybe it's inappropriate to ask the Frierdiker Rebbe, that could be a kapeda of a Rebbe's. But he's not, he's just the messenger. He's part of the organization. He gets a phone call from a donor, he has to ask, he has to do what he's asked. The Rebbe says he went into the Frierdiker Rebbe and said, so-and-so telephoned me and asked me to ask if there's going to be a war for business questions. So the Rebbe, it's amazing. Just imagine a scene like this. It says, Rebbe, Heirim es Einov, the Rebbe lifted up his eyes. Imagine the Frierdiker Rebbe, everyone knows the Frierdiker Rebbe's powerful eyes. V'hibit bi, and he looked at the Rebbe. Chayach, and he laughed. And he said, the Frierdiker Rebbe tells the Rebbe, I guess, to tell over to this person, Es zet sich nit kein mechama. Lo niris mechama, I don't see a war. If Neya Machadim Hiskli Yehudi plain, you see later, this Jew who called the Rebbe reminded the Rebbe of that story. In 71, it says that in that time when the Rebbe spoke, and again, so this is a year later, 1950. It's after the previous Rebbe passed away. So it says in footnote 71, when the Rebbe is talking now, again, there's starting to be talk of war. The Rebbe was telling over the story, not to say that he himself was going to say there's not going to be a war, because there was no war. But he's telling over a story of the Frierdiker Rebbe. So the people there understood that there's not going to be a war. The Rebbe is trying to hint, again, not to talk direct, that there's not going to be a war. And then the Rebbe wrote about it. It's not like you could just say that maybe the footnote people are misreading the story. So again, the Rebbe wrote a letter to someone who asked him the question. I already said my opinion. Before 2 months, means he said the story. He wrote a letter in Elul, and he's writing about Thomas. In the next few months, there will not be a war. Don't get overwhelmed. Do what you have to do. Don't take the war into consideration. Again, here we see that the Rebbe tells the Rebbe of prophecy and Amonis, and here the Rebbe didn't even officially accept the leadership. But he's already saying that there's not going to be a war. This is amazing. The Frierdiker Rebbe, the Mittler Rebbe, who has a sefer called Shari Oira, who the Mittler Rebbe is known to talk a lot about Mashiach, also about the Imais Mashiach and Chevle Mashiach. Says Achila, the difference between Beze Fania Geula. In the Varm also we have it. There's two types of ways the redemption could be: Be'ita in its proper time, or in an earlier time. He analyzes what's better, to wait out the full time so you could do the full effort, or you should work so hard that you hasten the time, you bring it earlier. The Rebbe says, that's a long time ago. But in our days, in 1950, and surely in 2026, all the deadlines have passed. Therefore, we're holding now, we're holding both its proper time and Nichishana, and surely 86 years later. Let it just happen. Mashiach should come. And we should have to wait. We be Hashem's will. The Yeshua v'nachama. That should be a month of salvation and consolation speedily in our times. Esher Koach.